Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing a really special and long awaited video. What is the life purpose of Justin Trudeau? How's it going everyone? I'm Raminder, psychic healer, lawyer, here to teach you about Justin Trudeau's life purpose. So if you don't know me, now you do. Overall, I do a lot of stuff around life purpose and human design. And so naturally, the last couple of months, I've been thinking, what is his life purpose? And I want to preface by saying I don't usually read other people's energy without their permission. I don't read into celebrity energy or things like that. I mean, I can sense a lot and know a lot through my psychic hits, but I make a note and an active effort to not talk about the energy too much or psychic predictions, let's say. And the reason that is because I like to respect that boundary. But with this, I thought it would be interesting to teach you all or show you all about Justin Trudeau's life purpose and his human design so you can better understand why he makes the decisions he makes, why he speaks the way he does, what his learning lessons are through this whole pandemic, and why he is aggravating people, right? And so I'm not making excuses for anything he's done. Those of you that follow me on Instagram will know that I often talk about politics, activism, empathy, understanding, opening up lines of communication, simply because I think it's important to understand each and every individual that we can, or the sovereignty of each individual. And so even when I post about Justin Trudeau or I say things satirically or sarcastically or as a joke, I know the purpose in things, but of course as a 3D human I like to still make fun, right? Or else it would just be boring to be like, well, I know the purpose of that all the time, right? And so yeah, I wanted to come on here and teach you about his human design. And if you haven't seen human design before, the chart is going to look a little bit weird to you, which I'm going to have right here in the picture. It's essentially human anatomy, and we are all given a soul blueprint at the time of birth. So these are the sort of readings I do for my clients in coaching calls when we look at purpose and healing and how we can really use our energy to be productive with activation. And all of us have a specific purpose, right? Of course, Justin Trudeau does too. And so we are supposed to use that energy to co-create with the universe, as well as to teach or be in collaboration with the universe to teach ourselves whatever lessons in karma, as well as to teach others that, right? And so naturally we're going to have that provocation or that resistance or trigger as 3D individuals, because that's the process of life. That's the process of karma, whether it's good or bad. And so I, again, wanted to come on here and teach you about this. All right, so let's get into it. So I'm going to be looking a little bit at my notes here because I have just so many things written down that I want to talk about, and I don't want to forget about these specific things. I thought that it was so mesmerizing. When I looked at his chart, I was just actually mesmerized at how in purpose he really is. And again, not to make excuses for him, but he is truly living his purpose. The thing is his purpose is in a slight distortion right now. And what that means is he thinks he's doing the right thing. He doesn't know on a conscious level that he has created conflict and divide. And that's actually a part of the shadow energy of his purpose. And so he has the left angle cross of prevention, 1015, 1817. The left angle cross of prevention is essentially to be a leader and to keep people away from harm. It's to applaud those that are complying, and the important part of his energy is to ensure that he's not doing it in a way that's demeaning or dictatorial. And so how ironic is that? Is what he's doing is praising people that got the vaccine, telling people that didn't get the vaccine that they should do this in order to prevent harm, right? Left angle cross of prevention is basically, let me teach others through my knowledge how to prevent harm to themselves. And that what he's actually done through his hate speech is create the opposite effect. And so when we're in purpose, we have to be very careful about that, especially because we generally, as human beings, we can use positive energy and create a negative effect if we are in the shadow energy of our specific element or purpose, right? And so that's exactly what's happening right now. He isn't showing a level of empathy, and he has used crass language, extremism, misogynistic, supremacy, and all of that to try to get his point across, thinking that he is preventing harm and doing so. But what he's actually done is create harm. And so whether he's living in purpose is up to question, but he is really doing that because he's meant to provoke people. He's meant to be here to teach people the level of discernment in these things. I have a couple more notes here that I wanted to read off. He has to be careful in his delivery, right? Which he hasn't been when it comes to the specific incarnation cross. What's really interesting is within his gene keys, he's supposed to transform the shadow of opinion, and his purpose is to manifest the gift of farsightedness. And what that means with the shadow of opinion is he is meant to teach people the difference of opinion as well as having the empathy, right? And so unfortunately, I guess for him, what has happened is he has created separation between among himself, like between himself and among a group of people or a large part of the population. And so a part of his purpose has been to do that because that's how the message has gone across. And the gift of farsightedness is, where am I missing out? Where could I have done more? Or where is he missing the mark? And so when you look at that, when you look at what he's supposed to be as a catalyst or a trigger for humanity, he's really doing that at this particular moment in time. And I do sense that by about January, he's going to start to come down from his high horse a little bit and start to really realize the negative impact he's made. And I have made some predictions before where I do believe that he will resign. Whether or not that still happens, I feel is up in the air. If it is going to happen, I feel like it'll be at the beginning of 2023, around that time when this energy really starts to sink in. And I saw that more in his astrology, which I'm going to come to in a little bit. In his human design profile, he's a manifesting generator and he is a 6-2. A manifesting generator is someone that's here to create light energy and is here to lead change. And so he's doing that as a leader. He is also meant to respond to people. But the thing is, you have to respond in alignment, right? The reason he gets frustrated, the reason he has negative impact and reaction or response from individuals is because he's not acting in his highest purpose for the highest good, even though he thinks he is. Like I said, he's not conscious of what he's doing. He actually thinks he's doing the right thing, which is why I think he goes around in circles about answering questions in the House of Commons. Like, it's really frustrating to watch really any liberal go about and meander about the fucking answer when we just want to know what the answer is. And if it's a yes or no, he just continues to say the same thing because he thinks that that is helping people. And so that gets to be a little bit problematic. And so he gets frustrated because he's out of alignment. That's exactly what the manifesting generator does. When you're out of alignment as a manifesting generator or a generator, it causes anger and frustration. And so in human design, there are 5 types. You have a manifestor, manifesting generator, projector, and reflector. All right. And so you can get your free chart on a human design website. You're going to know what that is. And there's 12 profile types. His specific profile is a 6-2. And that is a role model opportunist, a role model hermit. And what that is he kind of goes into hiding. So just think of the time when he got COVID, right? He was literally hermiting and off screen. And so he takes that time to recalibrate. So he plays the role of the role model as a leader. And then he takes a little bit of time to himself or walks out of the House of Commons. And sidetrack, I went on a cross Canada trip in 2019 and I was in New Brunswick and I bought this mug and I thought that this was really fitting to use today. And at that point, I like Justin Trudeau. So I'm like, let me just use the mug today. I'm drinking some lemon balm tea to keep my energy clear. And so, yeah, as his profile type, as a 6-2 profile, he has a transpersonal profile. And what that means is people are meant to learn through him. People are meant to learn karma through him. So over the last couple of years or 2.5 years, people have learned a lot about themselves, a lot about other people, a lot about their own blind spots and unconscious bias. And so, again, with that, he's really living in purpose in having a sense of identity within that, right? So he can feel good about that maybe in his next life when he reincarnates, right? So let's look a little bit at his gates and channels. So gates in human design are portals of activation, as I call them. And the channels are the lines that are completely connected. And then we have hanging gates, which are let's say half of a channel. And when we focus, let's say, on things that are all in white or not colored in, I teach that as conditioning. And so when we are focusing more of our energy on the places we're not activated is when we can become out of alignment, right? Because we're focusing on things that maybe we're not good at or our soul didn't choose to be good at. And some of these things we learn as we go through life, right? So if you ever want to know personally about yours, you can always book that reading with me via the link below. But it just gives perspective into where he's actually utilizing his energy, all right? And so I am going to put my glasses on so I can see my notes here and what exactly I want to talk about. So I apologize that I'm not really looking at the screen completely. So with these arrows that you see at the top of the head there, his digestion is a passive digestion, meaning that he is meant to digest information as time goes on. So for him, like I said, he's going to have that click moment, I feel, in the next 6 to 7 months where he starts to realize what he's done once it's sank in to the point where he can't really go backwards once the lesson is already learned. For him, he likes to have a structured environment. And so what a structured environment is he likes to have a specific routine or knowing or have a logical plan. But the thing is it's not really collaborative with his ability to manifest. He's a non-specific manifester. And so for him, what he's tried to manifest is 100% V rate, which is just not going to happen, right? He follows that thinking that it's the right thing to do rather than feeling into what would be good for humanity. So that's where he has a little bit of a hiccup in his energy. His awareness level is about logic and strategy. And so we already know that because he's not really intuitive. He's not really in tune with those sides of himself. And so he has a hard time remaining grounded because, again, he thinks he's doing the right thing, but he's not. And so he ends up being, again, really frustrated, sarcastic, and passive overall in his communication. Overall, in his personality, we're going to look at gate 48 to 16. So he knows that he is a mentor. He knows that his level of excitement has really allowed people to become confident in his ability to save us or create health and wealth for them. So overall, he thinks that just because he has a following, that is enough for him to be a successful leader. And we know that that's not the truth because he doesn't have empathy. He's not practicing that level of empathy within his purpose as he should really be doing. 57 to 20, which is about his design. So things that he's not subconsciously aware of that are in the back of his mind, which, like I said, are going to be processing, I feel, in the next 6 to 7 months. And he's going to start to calm down a little bit and realize what he's done when more and more information starts to pan out. When, the trial of Bonnie Henry comes up here in British Columbia, our provincial health officer is going to be on trial in April 2023. I will be doing a life purpose of Bonnie Henry human design as well. But overall, in his design is he doesn't know, okay, he's starting to uncover what it's like to create a sense of community, to create a sense of harmony. And right now, he's in this survival mode, right? He's kind of in this anxiety response. And so he thinks that creating harmony and community and creating safety is gaslighting people to get a vaccine. He doesn't realize he's really gaslighting. He thinks that he's preventing people from harm, right? But what he's really done is create more separation between specific communities or among those that don't agree with getting this particular medical intervention. And so for him right now, he's starting to assess a little bit of timing as well as his survival instinct. So it's how that's going to turn up in his physical world is, oh, should I really have convinced people to get all this? Should I have, bashed them into getting this? Was that the right decision? Maybe I made a decision too quickly, because the thing is okay, the more conscious you are, let's say the more ascended you are or awakened, the faster you process information and understand the higher purpose, right? Naturally. So whether or not you relate to being awakened or not. For him, because he's still going through this process of finding himself, he is learning a lot of karma. Actually, that just reminded me, he's in his Chiron return, which makes absolute sense in his astrology placements, I just realized. So a Chiron return is learning karma. So there's a lot that he had done as, oh my gosh, okay. So just think about the blackface stuff, the racism and things like that had gone on, right? The microaggressive behavior he had before he was prime minister. So at that particular moment, he was going through his Saturn return of learning about himself. But the thing is he didn't take that opportunity to learn because of his privilege. And so now what has happened is he is learning that in his 50s. Okay, so oh my God, I can't believe I didn't click into that earlier. He's learning that in his 50s, because if you don't learn it and you don't implement what you're meant to learn at that time, of course your soul chooses a time in which you're going to do it. It then comes back around the age of 50. You're always going to have your Chiron return, and Chiron is the wounded leader, is a planet is the energy of your wounded masculine, let's say, which I'll come to in the astrology. But because he hadn't learned that, now he's learning it, but in a very public way and platform. And so he is, again, learning more about what to do and when to do it. Overall, he has a strong ability to bring people together, but he doesn't do it in an empowering way. So he's aware that he's meant to be here to unify people. Of course, as a leader you are, but he doesn't realize that he's actually disempowering people rather than empowering them, because again, that subconscious ego and what he's still learning is still processing and coming to the front, where he's not able to see what he's doing. So again, like I said, he's not conscious of the actions he's taking. He also thinks that he's a great activist, but he's not. He actually has a lot of conditioning within his channel of romance, which is actually where the activism is. So he doesn't have his light is not shining bright, right? He just kind of looks more and more ignorant as the days go on, when he keeps on going about the same thing. Like, it's not working. The shoe doesn't fit. Try a different approach. And he hasn't done that. Unfortunately, he's got a lot of people on his side that think that this is a positive community, that are also collaborating with that negative energy, bringing that up, and then everybody that's not in that energy has to work a little bit harder to maintain the hope. And we've really seen that the last couple of years. Overall, he has an open crown chakra and an open third eye. And definition is when they're colored in. The thing is with an open crown chakra and an open third eye, you have to be very careful, because you're more susceptible to conditioning, which means that even though you have a flowy thought process, right? For him, he does digest in a passive way, and so he needs a little bit more time to process, which is completely fine. He does have single definition in his chart, which means that, it's not super difficult for him to process information. He is a smart person, but overall what happens is he is highly influenced. He's susceptible to conditioning or other people's beliefs. And so let's say WEF is saying something, or Jigmeet Singh is saying something, or another liberal is saying something, or another leader, or Klaus Schwab, or whatever the fuck, or the health officer, right? Some Tam or Henry are saying something. He's more inclined to listen to that opinion because he's easily swayed. And thing is he doesn't have a strong sense of grounding himself to make the right decision, because he also has an open root chakra. And so he has a strong ego, right? Here we have the G center in human design, which is kind of like where our solar plexus are, but overall it's not. It's a G center of, let's say, where your identity is harbored in human design. So for him, his identity is paramount. What he stands for is paramount. So he has a lot of that stubborn energy, especially as a Capricorn. He's born on December 25th on Christmas. And so he has a lot of stubborn energy and is not really willing to change. And I'm going to come to that when I talk about the astrology within his chart next. Overall, he also has a throat chakra that's defined, meaning that he has a strong opinion and strong voice. And so when we see him on like a Twitter rampage or continuously going on, that's because he has a lot to say, and he's going to say it no matter what. He's not going to hold back. So when he gets triggered, what he does is he takes to Twitter. So we already know he's in a trigger when he goes on one of his rants. And so it's just kind of concerning, isn't it? Another part of his personality, 33 out of 13, he's a good listener. I've heard that. I saw that on somebody's page that had gone to do some activism work through the government or parliament, that he is a good listener. So he has the ability to listen. I think he just is not listening to the right people. Like I said, he's easily influenced by those that think they're doing the right thing. So he listens to them and he implements that, but he's not listening to the right group. He thinks because he is here to prevent harm, everybody that's telling him how to prevent harm is doing the right thing. But really, they're all on the side of pushing a narrative, which is unhealthy, which we can see. And lastly, in his human design, 15 to 5, he is learning more, again, about his habits and how he has created I was going to say cognitive dissonance, which is like when he has partook in presenting the public with altering facts, right? It's like, okay, there's this, we know it doesn't stop transmission, but get it anyway. Like, you're not helping people if you don't get it, but it doesn't stop you from getting it or them from getting it. And it's like, what the hell? And so he's learning now how to better approach those scenarios. The thing is that by the time he's able to implement it and understands, he won't be in the position that he's in at this particular moment, which means that he won't be prime minister when it actually settles in, because the humiliation starts to kick in. So he's going to have a late awakening in his life where he's going to start to kind of crumble under the pressure, and he's not going to be able to handle the let's say the changes that he needs to make on a public platform. But we already know that that is something that is not going to continue because of what the population really believes. When it comes to his astrology, I'm just going to pull up his chart again. When it comes to his astrology, he is a Capricorn, like I said. So he has a sun in Capricorn, he has a moon in Aries, and his ascendant rising is also in Aries. So Capricorn, being your sun sign, is how you view yourself and your ego. So what is your identity within yourself? And for him, that's very strong. He's also very stubborn, because he's like, I am the Prime Minister of Canada, and that's who I am. And he thinks that has a bunch of criteria with that isn't allowed to change, right? And so he has that energy where he's committed and devoted and likes to put the work in, but again, the energy is not very productive at this time. He has a moon in Aries. So the moon is how you deal with your internal world or your emotions. And for him, it's a lot of anger. And he's going through that at this particular moment. Because Aries, at this particular moment, is where Chiron is. And that is where Chiron was at the time that he was born. And like I said, he's going through his Chiron return, which is learning about that. And we've had the Chiron return, or we have the Chiron placement going on for the entirety of this year, and Chiron's about to go in retrograde. And what that means is that all that wounding, all the learning experience, all this karma is about to really come up for him to better understand and have empathy for the general public. His ascendant is also in Aries, and so the way that people see him is as a leader and an authority figure, but also as someone that may be a little bit rash. At the beginning of his run, let's say, as a liberal, he had that charisma, he had that influence, he had, the country going with his inspiration, right, of what he wanted to create. The thing is as time went on, that conditioning became more alive, and he was easily influenced by people that maybe were older than him or that he thought knew more than him. Because let's remember, he was a teacher, but the education he has is a lot different than people that preceded him in this role, or that tend to have these roles across the world. Lawyers, doctors, general just politicians ahead of time, or people that have been in a certain industry or PhDs. And so that's not a bad thing. It's just about how does that play into who you think you are and your value of self. And so he's going through a lot of this learning right now at this particular time. And with the moon in Aries, with all of his main three placements, it's sabotage central. It really is sabotage central. And the Capricorn placements along with the Aries placements are not collaborative energy. It can be really negative when used in a low vibrational way. It can be positive when you see the best of the scenario, but that's not something that he's doing right now. He's using it to burn the ground down, for example, rather than to create a fire. That's how we look at the elements, because Capricorn is an earth sign, Aries is a fire sign. And so what can happen is you can burn, right? You can burn the farm, or you can create a bonfire to create warmth. So it's like he prefers to burn the farm than to create the bonfire and to have that sense of community. It sounds kind of lame and cliche, but that's just what it is. He's also right now in a space of learning how to better communicate. And that's probably going to be in his relationship and what's his family life as well. And so his Mercury is in Sagittarius. What he's really learning is how to expand his communication, how to speak with more conviction, but also passion in a way that's not egotistical or temperamental. And so he's in this sort of space of learning that, where when he starts, let's say when he's about to go through a Mercury retrograde or goes through a Mercury retrograde, he can't at this moment handle what comes up, and so he shuts down. It's kind of what I feel. And I don't want to talk so much about his personal life or, you know, personal circumstances, but it gives you some sort of better understanding. So if he's a little bit more off the rocker during a Mercury retrograde, let's see when the next one is, because we already had one this year. You're going to know that that's something that is, I think it might be in October. You're going to know that that is why it's happening. All right. It's just really interesting to see it this way, right? And when I started to see the energy, I was like, wow, this makes so much sense. So the next one's going to be September 9th. And so what's going to happen is he's going to start to, again, in the middle of, not again, but in the middle of August, start to go through a little bit of a shift, which is going to last until about the middle of October. So it's going to be about a 2-month period where he's going to start to look at things differently, and like I said, process. Then he has his birthday, which is his solar return, which is a new cycle. And I feel like by February he's going to have a lot different energy, where he's going to just act like nothing happened, and people are going to be like, what do you mean nothing happened? Oh, things are back to normal and great. And you're like, you forgot the damage you did, buddy. That's the kind of energy that I'm feeling coming through from him. Overall, what holds him back is his ego. We already know that his ego is placed in the sun sign of Capricorn, as well as having that defined ego in his human design, as well as in his, he doesn't have a defined ego, his defined G center of identity. And so for him, it's, you know, he doesn't have, he has an open heart, right? So he has an open heart, but it kind of becomes overpowered. Like the heart and mind is really becoming overpowered with all this conditioning at this specific moment, because he's trying to tune into sides of himself that are not yet activated, that are still going to become activated later on, or early next year into the spring. What helps him move forward is when he's able to detach from a situation and also see where he needs to hone into his feminine energy. And so that is when he can be in a nurturing energy for the community. But that's really out of his comfort zone, and he hasn't done that. And a part of that comes from any sort of wounding that he'd go through as a child, right? We all go through specific wounding. And the thing is he has, like, his North Node is in the house of community. And so if he were to really try to create community, or he had tried to do that, he would have been a lot more successful in his messaging. Not saying that more people should get the V or not, because we're seeing a lot of side effects and we're seeing negative implications. But a part of what he was meant to do was create community. And a part of one of the blessings was his ability to do that. But he's going to be doing that in a whole different way now, because he didn't succeed in doing that during this particular time. And again, we got to remember that shadow energy is very strong. Shadow energy the last couple of years has been very, very overpowering, where it's hard to really know right from wrong, because the devil essentially tries to take over, and it's like, oh crap, like I don't really know what to do with this, right? And you don't really know what's happening to you. A part of his lessons is sacrificing illusion, and he's going to start to do that in the spring, sacrificing his illusion. and detaching and really, like I said, taking his rose-colored glasses off to see the damage that's been caused, especially as more information comes out, as I said. And so I hope that this gave you a little bit of insight into his energy. If you have any questions, please let me know. Like I said, I'm going to be doing one for Bonnie Henry, so I'm excited to see about that. I'm kind of a little bit scared, but I'm going to do it anyway to give you all insight into the purpose. And again, it's not to make excuses. I know a lot of people will comment on my Instagram and YouTube about, well, I don't really care, F him, blah, blah, blah. Go ahead and do that. You know, I'm just here to teach. That's my job on this planet as a healer, is to teach the lessons. And I know that a lot of people have been impacted by his decisions and his words, and I stand with you. So your emotions are always valid in that. I just want to give you this deeper level of understanding into how his soul was built to teach in this world and his specific role of leadership, which of course could have been done a lot different, but he will now be learning. So maybe that will give some solace to some individuals that really hope he changes. So if you ever want to get a reading with me, you can do that via the link in my bio, or we can go through your purpose, your design, your conditioning, all like this in an hour or an hour and a half reading. All right. So take care. Hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, comment, let me know what you thought, please. It would mean so much. I hope you take care. All right. Bye.